Negotiators are back at it in Washington. NAFTA talks have resumed after Canada and the U.S. failed to pen a deal last week.
You never knew for sure how many contractions it would take to give birth to your child, but you knew that each contraction was one contraction closer to the end. And I think that's where we are.
That's Foreign Affairs Minister Chrystia Freeland comparing the state of negotiations to childbirth. Talks continued late into last night to try and come up with a compromise. That's despite some tough talk from both President Trump and Prime Minister Trudeau, who both said they're willing to walk away from a trade deal. NAFTA negotiations again continued late into the night in Washington, D.C. This is where we bring in Danielle Smith from 770 CHQR to continue the conversation this morning. Danielle, the new deadline is October 1st, apparently.
Yes, and I don't know that Justin Trudeau made it any easier for Chrystia Freeland in her negotiations yesterday. It's funny, you know, when leaders do interviews in stations outside of the major press scrum, I think they get a little bit loose-lipped. So the major story that came out yesterday was when he was on Chad with Bruce Bowie, and he was asked a question about NAFTA, and he said, yeah, well, we need this Chapter 9 dispute resolution because we've got a U.S. president that doesn't always follow the rules. Now, I'm not sure that is the wisest thing to say when you're in the middle of heated negotiations. And I'm not sure that Canada is in a very strong bargaining position. I mean, we do stand to lose way more if this deal does not go through than the United States does. We need it more than the United States does. And there's some key decisions that were made in the sidebar bilateral agreement with Mexico that stand to benefit Canada greatly, such as the major decision that they came through with on autos, that 79% of the total amount of product going into cars would be in this North American bloc. That's going to help Canada. And in addition, they had put in rules in place about how Mexican workers would have to, at least half of their product would have to be made in facilities where workers were being paid $16 an hour. These are key things that the Canadian government put on the table. Now it seems like they're sort of shifting gears to sidebar issues, such as we've got to protect our culture industries. Like this, where did this come from out of the blue? So I'm not sure that the negotiations are going particularly well. I'm not sure that we are going to get to the finish line on this one. I think we can all remain hopeful on it, but it is a bit alarming, I think, that Mexico was able to get to a deal so quickly, made some major concessions, and our government doesn't seem to be negotiating on the same playing field as what the Trump administration is looking for.
Chrystia Freeland appears to be holding her own somewhat behind closed doors. Of course, we don't know what's happening behind closed doors. But at this point, do you believe that either side would truly walk away at this point, or would that have happened by now?
It is so unpredictable with this president. You really don't know. I mean, I think there's a lot of internal pressure in the U.S. because there's a lot of border states and Republican governors who clearly want to maintain a strong relationship between Canada and the U.S. But you've also got a president who has been pretty consistent on a number of issues. He wants to eliminate tariff barriers. He wants to eliminate non-tariff barriers. He wants genuine free trade. He wants to eliminate subsidies. And everything Canada's coming to the table with is we need to protect our supply-managed industries. We need to maintain our 300% tariffs. We need to protect our culture industries. So it seems like Canada is not putting anything on the table by way of getting to an agreement. And I think that when you're dealing with a president who's been as pretty clear and has sees the world in black and white as Donald Trump does, that doesn't bode well for us. I think that we need to see some major movement on the issues that he's raised, and I haven't seen any indication that we're moving in that direction.
Danielle, thanks for your time today.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Much more on the Danielle Smith Show starting at 9:30 on 770 CHQR.